What's going on, everyone? Michael Album here from the Roofstock Academy, and I'm coming to you from Bodega Bay, California. We are back in the van on the road again for the next month and a half. Very excited to be here, and we're headed up to Oregon to do some skiing and snowboarding, catch some spring skiing. So today I want to talk to everybody about after repair value and calculating the cost of repairs as you're getting into an investment property. So we've done a lot of other lectures and videos about cash on cash return and cap rate and how to calculate those metrics. So today I want to talk to everybody about how do you actually calculate what your repair costs look like as you're getting into a property, as well as what your after repair value or ARV might be once you've completed those repairs. So first and foremost, when you're looking at a property, always, and I seldom say always, but I'm going to caveat it with the fact that I seldom say always, I always get an inspection report on a property before purchasing it. Now, I guess an exception could be if you know it's going to be a total gut and rehab if you're doing a flip, or you know it's going to be a tear down, maybe not as important. But for me, I always get an inspection. And I'll be honest with you, the one time I broke my own rule, it bit me in the butt. I found out a bunch of stuff after the fact, and I knew it was going to be a bigger flip than anticipated, but this kind of stuff caught me off guard. So take it from me, try to always go get an inspection report. It just makes you go into the investment eyes wide open, and it helps identify any potential issues that you might be running into in the property. So now you've got your inspection report. Hopefully your inspector can help quantify what some of those repair items might run you in terms of the dollar cost around them. So they might say, hey, there's some roof shingles missing and my estimate's $600 to get that repaired. So great. And you're going to tally up all of the things that the inspector finds. And hopefully, again, they should be able to give you a dollar cost for each of those repair items. You total it up, and that's what the repairs are likely to cost. Now, I will say that the inspector is not a contractor. And so they might not be as up to date with what the cost of goods or materials are, especially where we find ourselves today. I'm recording this in end of March 2022, where the cost of goods, materials, and services are just really high. So I would supplement whatever estimate you have with two other estimates. And one is going to be coming from your property manager, if you're using a property manager. So if you're not using a property manager, of course, you're not going to be getting an estimate from a property manager, but I would send the actual report that you get from your inspector to your property manager and say, hey, property manager, can you take a look at this and tell me what you think? What are the things that need to get repaired today? What are the immediate repair items? And then also, what do you estimate the costs to be? And most property managers are going to be pretty well informed enough to be able to give you a ballpark estimate. Now, in addition to getting it from your property manager, if they don't tell you, hey, I'll go get this quote for you, you need to be proactive and you actually need to go find contractors that can do this work and give you a bid to have those repair items taken care of. So again, if you don't have a property manager, you're just going to go directly to the contractor. If you do have a property manager and they can get a bid for you, let them do that. But I also might go above and beyond and get a second bid just on your own to make sure that you're getting competitive rates. So the contractor hopefully is going to come back, or your property manager is going to come back with a quote they've received and say, okay, these are the things that need to be addressed day one, either before a tenant moves in if it's vacant, or kind of in the near foreseeable future if a tenant's already in place, because there's safety issues or they could lead to additional damage of the property. So you want to get those taken care of ASAP. Here's the cost for those. And then here's the cost for some of the other stuff. That then is going to be your most accurate way to determine how much is the repair going to cost. Once we know what the repair is going to cost us, we want to determine, okay, is this something that I can finance? Is this something that I need to put cash into? Or is this something I'm going to go back to the seller and ask for either a credit or a price reduction? And if you're not familiar with those are, a credit is basically money back from the seller, cash back from the seller that's going into your pocket at closing. So let's say the agreed upon purchase price is $100,000 and the seller is going to give you a credit at close. Let's say of $2,000 to make repairs. So purchase price of $100,000, credit of $2,000, the bank is giving you an 80% loan. Let's say in our example, so the bank's bringing you $80,000. Normally you'd have to bring $20,000 to the closing table, but because you're getting a credit for $2,000, you've only got to come up with the remaining portion of that, which is going to be $18,000. So that's a credit versus a reduction in purchase price. If we reduce the purchase price to $98,000, now the bank is only going to give you 80% of the purchase price. So they're only going to lend you, let me get my calculator, $78,400. And again, you've got to come up with the remainder of the purchase price, which is $19,600. So some people like credits. Some people prefer a reduction in purchase price. That's totally up to the individual investor. But today's focus is how do we quantify what the repairs are going to cost? And that's how we do it. So we get quotes, we find out hard dollar costs of the people who are going to be doing the work as to what it's going to cost. Now, they might tell you, hey, it's subject to change because there might be some additional things that we find behind the walls. That happened to me. I got quotes to have repair items taken care of. And once they got the drywall off, they found that all of the electrical and all of the plumbing had to be redone because it was done very poorly. Now, that wasn't able to be seen during my due diligence, during my inspection. And so you kind of have to go into these things depending on what the scope is, depending on how big of a repair you're looking to do, with the understanding that there could be some things that get unearthed that come about after the fact. And so you want to give yourself some wiggle room and some budget to account for those things should they come up. Now, if you're replacing light fixtures or replacing a roof or replacing things that you can visually see and there isn't stuff behind, those are a little bit easier to quote because the light fixture costs what it costs to replace. But again, in my instance, I was doing a total gut and rehab anyhow. We just weren't anticipating having to redo all of the electrical and all of the plumbing throughout the property. So that caught me by surprise. Definite a gut punch there. We made through it. We made it through it because I had some reserves buffer because there was just some unknowns. Okay, so now we talk about how to quantify the repairs in terms of dollars and cents, what they're going to run you. Now let's talk about ARV, or after repair value. This is a question I get all the time because it really tells you how much equity you're buying into day one into the property, or how much equity you stand to make in the property in a fairly reasonable or short amount of time. So if you're buying a property that needs repair, we are hopefully going to be making the property more valuable than the dollars we put into it. So as an example, if we buy a property for $100,000 and we spend $10,000 in repairs, we would hope that the property is worth more than $110,000 at the end of the day. Because if it wasn't, well, we could have just went and bought the property for $110,000 without taking on the headache and risk of doing the repairs in the first place. And that's typically what we call a turnkey property. If a property is ready for you to walk in the door or tenant to walk in the door, put the key in, turn it, walk in and move in, that's turnkey ready. And we tend to pay retail marketplace price for those because all of the work has been done. We don't need to do anything. Now, if I have to go into a property and I have to do work, well, I want to be compensated for my time, energy, effort, and risk associated with that. And so I'm hoping and really demanding that there's equity to be had at the end of the day. So again, if I go in and buy a property for 100 grand, I put 10,000 into it in repairs, I'm hoping that it's going to be worth 115 or 120,000, meaning that I created $5,000 or $10,000 in equity. And that's what I get for doing the work. That's the reward that I get for taking on that risk and going through that headache. So after repair value is now that the property is completed in terms of the work that needs to be done, what is it worth on the open market? Or what is the fair market value of that property? And calculating it can be very difficult. But here are a couple of things that I really like to do to give me an idea of what the ARV of the property is going to be, again, after the work is completed. Comparable sales is the name of the game. And so if residential property is what we're working on, single family homes up to fourplexes, the appraiser is going to look at the comparable sales of properties in the area that have similar size, finish, square footage as your property or the subject property. And they're going to tell you, hey, this property sold up the road for about 100 grand. This property down the road sold for about 100 grand. They look like pretty similar to yours. So your property is worth about 100 grand. So we want to get an understanding of what the comparable sales in the area are selling for. That's going to give us a little bit of insight into, okay, well, the property is here. The comparables are up here. So I want to do enough repairs to the property to get it in line with these other comparables. Now they should be worth about the same. Now, there's a reason that appraisers exist as an entire profession unto themselves. And it's because it's fairly difficult to do. Appraising property, you have to take a lot of things into account. And anyone who's seen an appraisal report will tell you that they're very complicated, they're very in-depth, and there's a lot of pages to them. So if it was as easy as going on to Zillow and saying, oh, well, look at this property, it's similar to this one, they should be worth about the same, appraisers' jobs probably wouldn't exist. But that's kind of what we're trying to do. We want to show the appraiser or get an idea of what an appraiser would value our property at. So looking at comparable sales is first and foremost one of the best ways to go about getting an idea of what the property is going to be worth. Secondly, keep really good books and records around all of the updates, repairs, maintenance that you're doing on the property. Because if you can show an appraiser, hey, look, I bought the thing for $100, I just spent $10,000, I replaced the roof and I got a new HVAC system, look at all the value I've created, that's gonna help make their job easier. I just went through this on some cash out refinances I'm working on. The appraiser said, hey, give me a list of, they asked me proactively, which was nice. They said, give me a list of all of the CapEx and repair items that you've done on the property that you think have improved the value. And so I named off all of the things I did. I upgraded the electrical, I put in a new roof, all of the things that I completed to help give them an idea of what the value of the property should be, in addition to the comparable sales that they're looking at. So lastly, go online and look at what things are being listed for. Now, there's a big difference between what things are being listed for and what they're actually selling for. And so if you can get an idea of, hey, what are people listing the property for? Again, comparable properties nearby in the neighborhood of similar size, finish, and vintage. What are people listing properties for? That's going to give you a little bit of insight as to what you might be able to list the property for if you were to go sell it. Now, remember, there is that difference, like we said, between list price and sale price. So we want to be very, 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 very sure about what things are selling for. But it's also an indicating, kind of a leading measure of what things are being listed for. And if we're not seeing a big difference in the last 20, 30, 40 days between list price and sale price, well, that's a good indicator that, hey, looking forward, what properties are being listed for, they seem to be selling for. So those are the 3 tips and tricks that I like to use to try to get a handle or an understanding around what the ARV or after repair value is on a property after I've gone through and made the repairs. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe so that way we can keep bringing you additional content like this. If you like this video, definitely come check us out at roofstockacademy.com, where you can get access to over 50 hours of on-demand lectures, learn how to make great investing decisions, and avoid some pretty costly mistakes. We'd love hearing from you in the comments section, so feel free to drop us a line, a note what you thought about this video or other topics you'd like to hear more about. And as always, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy investing.